One of the things I ask of my students in my classes is to add a background to their composite. Now, a lot of times we will get just simple images added in the background, which is great, but to really show your creativity, to really show your expertise in using Photoshop, I suggest going online and searching for tutorials in Photoshop that will show you step by step on how to create a background. So if you go online and Google or Yahoo, whatever favorite search engine you have, and you type in Photoshop tutorials background, you're going to find a variety of different tutorials out there that you can have and you can try out. You want to find those ones that have step-by-step um, instructions, because those are going to be a little bit easier to work with. So as you can see here, I found, I just typed in Photoshop tutorial background, and there are a variety of different links that you can look at. Some might not have those step-by-step, so I would suggest looking for the step-by-step tutorials. And there's a variety of different ones out there that you can try that will make it a little more, just add a little more creativity to your document. Now, one of the ones I'm going to try to do is, I went online and found this one with the realistic outer space scene in Photoshop. So this one here has simple steps to follow, going all the way down. It looks like a total of, 12 steps. So now the thing that you have to watch out for too is some of these tutorials was done in earlier versions of Photoshop. So if you're using CC, there might be some things you might have to tweak. But that's all right, because that's a good thing on that part. So like in this example, let me go ahead and open up my Photoshop here. I'm going to go in and follow the steps. Get down here. Go step 1 says create a new document. So now what I'm going to do is I want 1280 by 800, so I'm going to do a file new. Now if you're restricted on a certain measurement, then yes, you can't go over a certain width and height, so you have to set it to what your composite is on that part. So we want 1280 by 800. Okay. I'm going to click OK there. I'm going to bring my default colors back to black and white. There's a little swatch over here that you can click on. Next thing they're going to have you do is create a circular gradient for the background. Now, it's a very subtle background on this, and they have it going from a dark gray color for the center and black for the outer color. So let's switch our foreground color, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on the color swatch here for white. I'm going to choose a darker gray, just like that. Then I'm going to switch to my gradient tool. Okay, I'm going to have foreground to background selected. That goes from the darker gray. I'm choosing the circular radial gradient. I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm going to drag outwards. Okay, so it's creating more of a gradual look for that. And of course you can experiment, like if you want to go in smaller, something like this. I think that's about right, so I'm going to do it about this, so this way there's a little bit lighter and there's more of a circular area here for that part. And I have it down the bottom right. Of course you don't have to always do it in the bottom right, you can always do your own thing, but it's a great way to work with this and to experiment. So the next thing they're going to have us do is we're going to create a new layer. We're going to go into our foreground background color set to black to white, and we're going to use some filter render clouds. So in this case I'm going to click on black and white over here. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm on layer 1. Now you can name your layers as you go. I'm going to double click on this. Then I'm going to go up to filter render clouds. Now what's really nice about this filter is that you can actually do it a couple times, and you're going to come up with different cloud effects. It takes what your foreground and background colors are, and mixes in to create a cloud effect. And when you keep going up and filtering, you do clouds, you're going to get different style, different effect to appear. So if you don't like what you have, you can always try it again, and it'll come up a little bit differently. Now they're going to have us select the gradient overlay. So that's a layer style. We're going to come down here to FX, and I'm going to choose gradient overlay. They want us to choose a colorful gradient that's going to be applied over top of those clouds. So I'm going to come right here. You have different colors that you can use. Could be this. It really doesn't matter. It just says, hey, use any colorful gradient that you enjoy. Now we're just going to adjust the angle of this a little bit. So I'm going to just take this to about 100. So it's automatically going to go in, just have a slight angle to it so it's not straight down. And the next most important part is we want these colors to mix and match with the clouds that you create. And we do this by adjusting the blend mode. From here we're going to say normal up here at the top, and we're going to choose overlay. This is great when you want to add color to any grayscale images, and since our clouds are black and white, it's going to work great on this aspect. So when we change the blend mode, it's going to preserve the texture that we're looking for, and it's adding some color to it. Now once you have there and you don't like maybe you don't like the gradient, once you do that, that's fine. Come up here and you can choose a different gradient. Here I'm going to do more of a rainbow aspect of that. So now step 3, let me go ahead and click OK. We still have my clouds layer still selected, and in this case I want this layer to blend with the background. To do that, I'm going to apply a blending mode to the entire layer, and I'm going to do the normal. Up here where it says normal, I'm going to choose overlay. This is going to darken your image, it says, but that's all right. We're going to go in and make some other changes, but I kind of like this already. You see where the light areas are, you can see the colors come out. It creates that little effect like it actually is out there in space. Step 4, they have you duplicate the cloud layer, and then we're going to do some change in settings for the styles. So to duplicate the clouds layer, I'm going to do a Control J. That duplicates the entire layer. You can see that it gets more vibrant here on that case. And then what I want to do here is I'm going to change the angle of the gradient overlay based on the tutorial. And in this case, I'm going to go, let's just do minus 140. Now this is going to go in and create more an uneven look for your colors to help, and as it says here right in the tutorial, which I really love, it says it will make our galaxy look authentic, which is really cool on that part. Now what they're going to do is they're going to add some space dust, and we're going to add that to a new layer. And we're going to use a filter called Add Noise. Noise adds actually pixels to a layer. It basically creates little pixels and so forth. Kind of creates like a dust pattern in a sense. And then we're going to go in and adjust the layers as well. And we're going to change its blending mode to have a little bit different effect on this. So on a new layer, I'm going to fill this with black. Okay, it's going to hide what's there, but that's why we changed the blending mode later. Now I'm going to go up to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. Can you see the specs? The specs we have in here? See, it's adding a little texture to that. I do want to make sure it's Gaussian. It brings out more of the colors on that aspect. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually go to monochromatic, which basically takes away those colors. I really want those specks, and those are kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of like those stars in the background. Click OK. Now, if you think you need to make it a little more dusty, they say, hey, open up your levels adjustment layer and bring out some of the contrast of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the blending mode for this layer 1 to color dodge, which basically helps to lighten up the area. Now what we want to look at, it's harder to see over here in the black area, but you can see some nice texture added where the clouds are over here on the right. Okay. Now step 6 is very similar to the last one. It says now we're going to make distant stars as opposed to the dust. So now we're going to concentrate on the stars and try to have stars in the background. We're going to follow step 5 just as before, but in this case we're going to add more noise and mess with the levels a lot. So what we're doing is we're going to bring out more of the white on that part. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to fill it with black. I'm going to go up to filter, render, I'm sorry, not filter noise, add noise. I already have Gaussian and monochromatic selected. Now you probably want to increase the amount a little bit. You definitely don't want to go that far. Okay. Now we're going to come up and add a adjustment layer called levels. And we're going to make some settings here. 1.5. I'll use what they give. And as soon as you see how what we're doing here is actually you're making a lot of your image go black. So anything that's like a lighter, darker gray, it actually goes black. And so it's leaving only the darkest, lightest, the lightest points out there. And then over here on the right, we're going to do 150. And so that's going to actually make those stars a little bit brighter on that part. And in this case, I'm going to change the blending mode for our layer 2. We're going to change that to color dodge. Now in this case, I want this adjustment layer most likely to be affecting layer 2. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go up to layer and choose create clipping mask. Then we'll go to layer 2 and change the color dodge option. As you can see here, you can see little specks coming up. Now here in step 7, they're just going to have you go in and erase some of the hard, using a hard edge brush, erase away the stars in the darker areas of the image. So that way you're not uniform. So you're just going to go in and wherever you don't want those stars, we're going to use the eraser tool. And again, you can use something bigger. In this case, they want to use a hard edge brush. 100% hardness is set. Okay. And so here, and what you're trying to do is try to create illusion, and I might come up only where you want to see it. So I'm just erasing some of those stars. So it's not looking uniform. We want to make it look like it's more authentic. Now again, you can keep adding things to this as they have here in step 8. On step 8, they're going to have us create a new layer, and we're going to create some clouds like we did in step 2, but without any color or layer styles. And then we're going to change its blending mode to color dodge. So I'm going to click on our top layer, create a new layer above it. Got black and white. Let's go up to filter, render, clouds. Again, I'm going to not change any color. I'm going to change this to color dodge. and it's going to basically intensify the colors and the light of your galaxy. So if I hide this real quick, see how that is? Now if you want to add more to that, then you can duplicate the layer. I'll do a Control J, and you can see it becomes, I think it's a little bit too much, but you can also experiment by lessening the opacity, for that purpose. And if you need to trim up certain areas, go ahead and trim it up on that aspect. Now if you want more clouds coming up over on the left hand side and so forth, then you can actually adjust your layers of where we have things affected on that part. And sometimes, like here, it really comes down to where this white is on our background, our gray. So what you could do is you could choose a darker gray, and you can use your paintbrush, and I'm painting on the background. And in this case, I probably want to use a soft edge brush. You can see how if I click, see you're adding to that. Now again, depends on the level of color that you want on that part. So if you want to add to it, you could do so. And you're going to see some of the stars come in and so forth. So all I would do here is go to my background and add a little extra. I'd use a gray color, a darker gray. If you, again, depending on what gray you choose, you're going to have a different effect. So like a darker gray like this is a little bit less than black, but it might be now in this case, of course, when you click, that kind of gives a different look for that. So you kind of have to test that out and see what you want to work with. But that's something to look at on that part. But again, let me go in my history right here, and I'm just going to undo that aspect of it. But at least that's something you can do, on that part. So one of the things they have to do in step 9 was actually create a brighten area in your galaxy. That way, kind of like it's acting like a sun. So that's something you can follow on that part. There's a couple other additional stars that they can go and work with. I'm not going to complete this. I kind of like what I have right now in a sense, because I can put my character over here on the left hand side. I can put some text up here at the top, and it can create that illusion, and it'll help balance out my page nicely on that part. So you don't have to follow exactly the tutorials, but what you want to do is, if you can create your own, it's really going to show you show the creativity that you can have, and you'll start learning how to use Photoshop in more detail. Now again, this is a great tutorial I found online that they wanted to use. I went to it's called Create a Realistic Outer Space Scene in Photoshop, and Fudge Graphics. They have some freebie tutorials and everything out there that you can actually download. So the fudgegraphics.com is a great site to look at. So if you check it out, you might find some other tutorials that you can use, or you might even find some things to download. So hopefully that helps you out. And again, just trying to give you some ideas on how to enhance your composite in class.